Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see so many of you here. My name is Ken Wu, and welcome to the Bridge the GAAP virtual event series. We hope you and your family, friends, and loved ones are well and safe, and you remain that way. We are sorry that we are not able to host you here at Saunders College of Business as planned. We had a couple of very nice plans. Of course, we were going to have a nice reception and dinner, it would be fun to socialize and be together. Unfortunately, the time has dictated the otherwise. So I apologize for that, and I hope next time the event come around, and we will all be able to do that and or something similar in our new building. Before we start, just one note. We just want to thank you for attending. I know how much you have to do to balance your online learning, family, and work. I also appreciate support from Saunders Accounting Advisory Board, Office of Alumni Relations, Office of Advancement, Office of Career Services, and Office of Communication. So with that, now I turn it to Maria. Welcome everyone, and I hope you enjoying the session.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see so many of your familiar names as we've been working through the semester all virtually. My name is Maria Richard, and I am the Director of the Career Services Office. And I have the pleasure of introducing this afternoon's speaker, who is Kara Roth. And Kara is the Director of Strategic Staffing at Lewis Tree Services. Kara leads a talent attraction and retention at Lewis Tree Services, which employs over 4,000 people across 29 states. So what I want you all to do is get your pens and paper ready, because at the end of the presentation, we're going to open it up. And I am hoping that you will be able to turn on your cameras at that point. And let's make this presentation as interactive as possible. So we're going to try to think about it as if she was in front of us in Saunders, we would be able to do that. She has a background. She is passionate about creating meaningful relationships. So again, getting that opportunity to really pick her brain today and talk about how has she been working in that virtual setting. Her experience has span between people and her work, with a background that spans, marketing, business development, human resources. Kara brings a unique viewpoint to how we market ourselves to potential employers. So if you guys are looking for co-op or full-time positions, and we're having that virtual career fair next week, this is where you're going to get a lot of advice. So get ready, and I'm looking forward to a dynamic hour. So I will turn it over to you, Kara.
Thank you so much. It's great to see everybody. I'm going to share my screen here, so give me 1 second. Let's see if I can get technology to work for me. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that okay? Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. So we're going to get started. So today I'm here to talk with you about how to land a job that you love in 3 steps. And it sounds really, really easy, but I know it's a lot more difficult than that. And I think if you were to go to the absolute root of this presentation, it's more about being able to identify what you're looking for in a career, and then understand how you can match that with what people are looking for from their hire. And really those 2 things combined are the magic ingredients to making sure that it's a perfect fit within a company. So it doesn't matter if you are an accounting major or a business major, or maybe you're joining us from somewhere else in the university. This is kind of a lifelong journey that we're on. And even folks who are mature in their career may still be looking for that job that they love. It's a relatable idea that carries with you throughout your career. So So today we're going to think a little bit about where we start. And when you think about graduating and going into a corporate position, whether it be in an accounting firm or at a company, the idea kind of is always that you're on this path and you're kind of growing and taking one step up the ladder, the corporate ladder, each step that you take in your career. But what I want to try to have you think about is that the world does not exist like that anymore. So instead of it being this one really clear path that you have to take in your career, let's say you work at one company for 40 years and you rise in the ranks, that is not the typical career anymore. And I don't know how many of you played this game, Chutes and Ladders, when you were young, but it's all about going up one path and then potentially sliding down back to the bottom, or picking another path and crawling up to the top based on another opportunity that you have. So when I think about my career, Maria talked a little bit about the different backgrounds that I've had. So I started out as a graphic designer in New York City. I then moved into the advertising agency world and focused on business development. Then I moved into human resources and talent development. And now I'm here with you today in a role that is really about how to market ourselves as a company to be attractive to people who might need work or are looking for a career. So even if I think about my own background, it really is a story that I write every single day through the things that I learn, through different interests that I pursue, and different goals that I create for myself. So it's within that context that we're going to talk about finding that job that you love. It doesn't have to be out of the gate. That may be the first step towards it. It may be kind of 2 steps along of where you really want to get to is that job that you love, but you're always kind of thinking about this as a malleable area that you can really mold like clay and make it what it is that you want it to be. So step number 3, understand what recruiters are looking for. So this could be a hiring manager in a company as well. It really takes thinking about what they are looking for in a candidate and how you fit into that larger candidate pool. So think about who else is competing, within your class. Who else is out there looking for this job? And really thinking about what boxes they're looking to check. What are the things that they're looking for that are going to make them attracted to you as a candidate? So Simon Sinek, who has so many wonderful wise quotes, I love this one. It's about hiring for attitude. And you're obviously in a very well-known and well-regarded program at RIT. We know that you're going to be developing the skill set that you need to go into a job once you graduate. That's kind of assumed, right? The thing that is a variable in this situation is your attitude, is your qualities, are the soft skills that you have. Those are the pieces that a recruiter is going to try to see what you have to offer outside of that skill set. So while it's critical that you have a really good academic background, that you have some workplace experience that you can translate, that's kind of the foundation, that's the jumping off point. It's really from there what's going to make you stand out. So let's talk about Google. Google is known to be a company that people talk about working for. Their job environment, the way that their culture is set up, and really the leadership that drives that organization. And they call it googliness. I don't know if anyone has ever heard about this, but they call the distinct quality that makes you suitable for working at Google, googliness. And those things are the desire to make the world a better place, knowledgeable application of technology, developing and selling ideas, and passion and drive. And their culture is so famous that they made an entire movie out of it with the internship. So if you think about it, is it important to folks in Google that you have those technical skills? Absolutely. This is what they're looking for above and beyond that skill set. We'll look at one more example. Wegmans. So we all know Wegmans. They're near and dear to our hearts because they're in our backyard and they have created such a great reputation in the grocery store industry and community. And what is their focus? So they are looking for people who can provide excellent customer service. Yes, they're known for their quality. Yes, they're known for their variety. But at the end of the day, you know that if you buy something from Wegmans and it's not what you were looking for, that no questions asked, they will accept it from you. They will go above and beyond helping you load your groceries in your car or helping you find something at their store or online. And their kind of tagline is that every day you get our best. So you can imagine that the qualities that they're looking for is someone who is very tuned into their customer and someone who can put them first, even if it's not their job, right? So I might have a dairy manager who comes over and he's available in the aisle, and I said, oh, I'm looking for this type of frozen fish. Do you have that? No, I don't, but let me introduce you to the seafood manager, and actually walks you over there. So if you think about what the recruiter is looking for in this instance, are those qualities that make that cultural fit that will carry on that brand's reputation. And that's a lot of what you need to think about when you're joining a company, is that if it's customer facing, if you are, let's say you're at one of the big four accounting firms and you're working directly with a client, you want to communicate that level of customer service that accounting firm is known for. So it's really, really critical to keep those things in mind. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but I wanted to give you a top level of some of the desirable attributes, particularly for the accounting world. This would translate to business and some of the other departments within a larger company. And we're first going to start with great communication. So it's, again, you can have a certain skill set, but you want to be able to communicate with your colleagues. You want to be able to communicate with your boss and all the way up the chain, if that's necessary. You want to be able to communicate with your customers, because even when you do an excellent job, if you're not asking the right questions, following up and letting people know where you're at in a project, clearly communicating what you need from your supervisor, from your customer, then there's going to be gaps. And so when a recruiter is looking at great communication, they're not only looking for experiences that you've had, but they're actually looking for how you show up in that interview. And I know it's very strange, the times that we're living in. This is strange to not be seeing you face to face. I would much rather be in the same room. So you really have to have a different level of commitment to communication when you're virtual. You can't make assumptions that because you sent an email, someone saw that. You really have to go above and beyond and ensure that your communication is landing with meaning and understanding. So that's the first attribute that we'll talk about today. The second is being relationship focused and being a team player. So we all have a lot of work that we have to get done. And sometimes I have to check myself. I'll start an email to somebody, hey, do you have that report I was looking for? And I kind of have to pump the brakes and say, wait a second. Hi, how are you today? How was your weekend? You know, sometimes we can get really, really focused on the task at hand. But it's really critical, particularly if you're going to be, working, let's say, at a larger accounting firm. You will likely be on a team, and that team will be working on the project or the client. And so not only do you have to have that great communication, but you have to be able to develop those relationships that allow you to collaborate and really serve the customer in a holistic way. You want one person to be shaking the hands of the other and know what the whole team is doing versus, well, this is my part of it, so this is the only part I'm going to pay attention to. So it's really critical, and a lot of times recruiters will think about an athlete or someone who has been in a club or some kind of team environment. It could be a larger team project that you worked on, to be able to talk about that experience and how you were able to be a participant and how you were able to be a leader, because you're going to be both in your career, right? You're not always going to be one or the other. So being able to talk about some of those experiences is really advantageous, because it shows that you have experience leaning on others to accomplish a goal. The next attribute that we'll talk about is being a problem solver. So the hardest thing when you're kind of first starting out in your career is that you don't know what you don't know, and you're kind of walking in, quote unquote, low man on the totem pole. Is it my place to solve this problem? Is it my place to take this on? And what they're looking for in a thinker is someone who can identify either a challenge or an opportunity and be able to take it from, okay, we've got this problem or this opportunity to solve, then how do I go all the way through the steps to completion? So again, think about, was there a project that you worked on during your time? Was it a co-op opportunity that you had, or a job that you were working on where you identified a problem and you were able to move that all the way to a solution state? And every time you think about these things, this is giving you an example that you can share when you're being interviewed, because recruiters are looking for behavioral-based answers. So not just, oh, you know what, I'm a really good problem solver. Okay, well, tell me more, right? They want to understand that you've had the experience and that you understand the application of problem solving, not just, trust me, I know how to do this. And then the last attribute that we're going to talk about today is someone who is self-motivated. So when, there's, I'll call it the world is your oyster, right? When you start a new job. And there's kind of two different approaches that people take. One is, I'm going to wait and let my boss tell me exactly what I should be doing. Or I'm going to share that I'm really interested in helping with this, or that I see that there's a team that's really, overworked, and I'd like to help. I'd like to help, with the workload burden. Is there a project that you'd like to take on? And thinking again about your experience, how do you demonstrate that self-motivation that you've had while you are in school? Are there extracurricular type of activities that you signed up for? Did you start a new team, or did you take on something outside of your studies because you were interested in it? I love to hear in interviews about people's personal lives in addition to their work experiences. I remember an interview not that long ago where someone was talking about learning a new language because they were just interested in it. Another person was taking on developing a skill set in design because they'd just always been interested in it. So those kinds of examples, even though they may not be specific to work or to school, they help someone get to know who you are and that you have that curiosity. And that curiosity often leads to solving a larger problem or creating a new initiative within a company. So again, by no means is this an exhaustive list of the attributes that recruiters are looking for. But I would say anywhere, any company that you go to, these 4 things are going to be some of the top of the list. So now we're going to shift to how those recruiters find top talent. And landing that job that you love takes intention. You kind of have to know where to show up to get noticed. So it's not just enough that you've got your resume polished up and you're kind of ready to go. These recruiters are seeking you out, and I think in particular to the accounting world, you're kind of on this cycle, right? Where in the fall you start to get folks coming in and interviewing and kind of seeing who's out there, and in the fall you may already have the job that you're going to start the next September as they bring in their different, recruited classes to start, especially in the Big Four. So you really have to kind of understand what tools they're using to identify top talent, and then making sure that you're showing up there and getting noticed. So here's the good news. Everyone will feel really good about this one. You are part of a great program, and that is going to attract companies to seek out the students that come out of the RIT Saunders College of Business. And even if you're watching today and you're not in the College of Business, RIT has such a great reputation, and Maria and her team at the Career Services Center have a ton of ways for you to connect with companies both locally and beyond. And I call this out because this should not go unnoticed. A lot of folks who are not able to be in a program of this nature have to really push a lot harder to be noticed and to get out there. And the fact that you have this, what I would call kind of system in place, you're going to have your career fair coming up, is a huge advantage. I can't stress that enough, that this is going to enable you to really have a leg up on some of the other candidates that are out there that don't have that system supporting you. I personally, I graduated from Syracuse University, and they had something very similar. They took all of our information into a career day, and if they were interested in us, they could, sign our sheet. And then at the end of it, we had a sheet that we basically had prospects of employers that were interested in hiring us. And if you think about the job market today, that's just very different from a lot of other areas, industries that are it's really difficult to either to get into, or there's just not a lot of opportunity out there. So you guys are in a great spot. So I want to talk a little bit about a concept or an idea called candidate personas. So very similar to understanding what you should put on a resume, what your job and work experience are, what are some of the skills or experiences that you've had that allow you to be qualified for a job, what was your education, what were some of the personal activities or volunteer activities that you were involved in. Behind the scenes, the recruiters and the talent acquisition departments of companies kind of come up with a bit of a resume. We call it a candidate persona for the different types of people in particularly entry level roles. So here at Lewis Tree, we have those personas, and a lot of our folks that come into our industry of vegetation management are coming from other industries. So we have to kind of get into their head and understand, what is it that's going to motivate them to make a career change? What is it that they're not happy with now? And what is it that would get them to make a change? And so these are what I would call kind of guidelines or parameters that recruiters use to help kind of say, here's a type of person that we think would be successful in this role. So here you see, this is Rachel. Rachel is a mom. She is looking for a job that helps provide for her family. So she's obviously motivated. I think you can see in the goals, she wants a full-time job. She wants to be able to provide for her family. Things that are really important for her are pay, flexibility. So she's probably prioritizing some of those things over a job that might be really interesting or have a lot of excitement. And if she is looking for her job, the resources that she's looking at are the internet. She's going to employment centers. She might even be going into a company and asking for an application. So this is really about getting into the mind of the applicant and really knowing what it is that you're looking for. So a lot of times when you're going to be interviewing, there's attributes that we talked about. So the problem solving, the ability to self-start, those might be things that are actually in these candidate personas that the recruiter is already predispositioned to look for. So it's important to know that they have a good understanding of what is going to make someone successful in these roles. And they're really tuned in to how to find those folks. And I'll just give you a counterpoint here to show you the difference. So Nick is a little bit closer into his starting of his career. He has a high school degree. He's looking to grow, make some extra money. But I would say he doesn't exactly know what he wants yet. And so he's going to be a little bit less about the pay, a little bit less about the hours, but really more thinking about what could be an interesting career. How do I get my foot in the door? So he loves electronics. He wanted to work at some electronic stores so that he can have fun, but he also wants to buy a car. So he has a different kind of goal now. So you can see here that the way he searches for a job is a little bit more technologically oriented through apps and through the internet. He might also look for networking through friends and family. So when you put your recruiter hat on, you might say that Nick is going to be more apt to be on the internet and some of those job seeking apps that are really popular. And then Rachel might be a little bit more hands-on. She may actually physically want to go to a location and see what it's like. She may want to work with someone from an employment center. So if I were to draft a candidate persona of someone who's coming out of school with a great educational background, I would go back to those 4 attributes that we talked about. And I would think about where does it make sense for a candidate coming out of school to show up. So it's definitely that career center that you have great access to, all of the events that they host, this one, career fairs. some of the networking opportunities that that provides. That's going to be top of the list. And then the next place is going to be LinkedIn. So I'm sure that Maria and her team have told you about how important it is to be on LinkedIn. But I want to show you a couple of very specific things available that really help drive you being noticed by recruiters. So there's this little box underneath your profile, and it's called Open to Work. And if you fill that information out in terms of what type of job you would be open to, you can see that here, Carl is open to being a product designer, a user experience designer, and a user interface designer. So you might say, I'm interested in being a business analyst, a junior accountant, or I might be actually interested in joining an FP&A team. So this gives you visibility to recruiters that you wouldn't otherwise have, because recruiters will go into the back end and they will search for people who are open to work. And then underneath that, they will search for the type of roles that they're looking for. And just because you sign up for this, you get this really cool hashtag and badge on your profile with the Open to Work green banner there, which helps you kind of stand out, so that if they hadn't done that search and they kind of come across your profile organically, they can say, oh, wait, wow, Carl, he looks like he has great experience. He's open to work. I should reach out to him. And then down at the bottom, you're going to see skills. And there's a couple of ways that skills work. One is that you can identify skills that you have and ask people to endorse you for those skills. But you can also use them to identify opportunities. So the different kinds of skills and technical experience that you have, you can put in here, and then you can see who is searching for those types of skills and who's endorsing for those kinds of skills. And that's another way that recruiters are looking for the kinds of experience that you've had. And I think these two things are kind of, they're lesser known, because a lot of people pay most attention to your narrative, which is really your resume, your work experience, all of those kinds of things. But on the back end, recruiters use databases to search for what they're looking for. So the more keywords and the more of the open to work designation allows you to be some of the results of those search parameters and get at the top of the list of the folks that that are looking for people currently. All right. And then I know that you guys know a lot about this, because this is our virtual world that we're living in now. And it definitely is, it takes some getting used to doing these things virtually. There's obviously the opportunities that the Career Center provides you for career fairs. And I would say that those are going to be above and beyond the best opportunities for you. But just, you know, in thinking if maybe you want to get into a corporate position, you know, maybe you don't want to go to a Big Four, you're not necessarily interested in an accounting firm out of the gate, you really want that corporate environment, the opportunity to see multiple departments and how they work together. Companies do host their own virtual career fairs, which you can seek out. So this one here is Nestle Companies, which it got caught up on the bottom here, but they own brands like Nesquik, Crunch Bar, Carnation. So they have a portfolio of brands that they support. And they can, in their virtual career fair here, you can see that they're offering a finance opportunity in their career fair. So a lot of larger companies do these, and they do them by department. So one of the things that I always suggest, if you have the opportunity to do these types of interviews and experiences on top of what you're doing at school, you may be exposed
There are
to
99 people in this Zoom.
to different types of opportunities than you would be before. Especially if you want to get into a much larger company, so Procter & Gamble, Nestle, one of the larger companies that would provide different kinds of opportunities. Going in and doing the virtual career fairs that they offer is always really advantageous. So if you think about, we've talked through the recruiter's mindset. We've talked first about what is it that they're looking for? What kind of attributes are they looking for? How your soft skills and the way that you approach things will help distinguish you against folks that maybe have your same skill set. We've talked a little bit about how recruiters look for candidates, whether it be right there at RIT through a career fair or online through LinkedIn. The way they think about a candidate persona helps them to visualize and experience the type of folks that they're looking for and that are successful in those roles. So we're going to shift now from thinking from a recruiter or hiring manager standpoint. Now we're going to think about what makes you stand out and how you think about, from a self-awareness perspective, what is going to make you irresistible to a company. So when I first started talking, I kind of told you there's like two pieces of magic ingredients to landing a job you love. The first is that understanding of the recruiter, the outside world, the market, all those kind of good things. But it's equally important and oftentimes overlooked what's important to you. And almost every time I go through an interview process, one of the candidates will say to me, I'll ask, hey, what are you looking for? If you could write your own job description today, what would it be? What would it sound like? And inevitably, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, well, I really want an opportunity. You tell me what you need and I'll do it. So what happens at that point is you don't know what to do with that candidate. You don't know what they're passionate about. You don't know what would make them want to stay with that job for 10 years. You don't know what would make them want to advance in your company. So indecision is not really so great. And we talk about this all the time, that if you're trying to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one, right? So it's kind of counterintuitive. And when I talk to candidates, they're coming from a place of, I don't want to say that I really want to do this, because what if that is all they have available? And then I won't have the opportunity, or I won't get the job. But that's kind of the point, right? You don't want to just sign up for anything. You want to know what you're going to be really good at. You want to know what's going to be a good fit, not only for you, but for them, right? That's really, really important. So I'm going to drill that home over the next few minutes. And then we can talk a little bit more about how to continue to have that self-awareness and that discovery. So I'm going to provide you with an exercise to help you identify your strengths. This is a really, really easy exercise to do. We won't be able to do it here together, but the first thing I want you to do is make a list of 5 people that you know really, really well. It could be a family member, it could be a teacher, a coach, it could be even a classmate. that you've worked closely with. And I want you to reach out to them. And oftentimes it's a little easier to do in email because they can really be thoughtful about their response. And I want you to ask them, what are the top 3 things that stand out about me? And then give me an example. So someone might say, well, Kara, I think you're really good at connecting with people and building relationships. And the example might be, you know, when I first joined this company, I wasn't really sure who to go to for what, and you were a connector for me, and it allowed me to be more successful more quickly in the company. Okay, great. That's an awesome example. And I will tell you that the hardest thing to do, regardless of how long your career is to talk about yourself, because you don't want to feel like you're bragging or boasting, and you want to be humble, and you know, it's difficult to do. It's almost easier to say, well, I'm not so good at this. But it's really, really important to have clarity. And a lot of times it's difficult to do unless you ask other people. And I'll tell you that every single person I have do this exercise comes back feeling like $1,000,000, because not only are you getting really, really good information that you can use in your job search, but it feels really good when people show you what's special about you. So I want you to then use the feedback that you got, and I want you to create a list of your strengths. And then again, when you think about interviewing, they're going to ask you behavioral-based questions. They're going to say, tell me about a time where you helped develop a relationship in your company. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I can do that. There was this person who was onboarding in the company. I helped that person connect with other people, and it allowed them to be successful sooner in their tenure with us. If anyone is interested in looking up the STAR method, STAR, that's a great tool for behavioral-based interview answers and to kind of help you think about that. But this will give you a great amount of clarity on what your strengths are. And then the other thing I want you to think about is, what are you looking for from a culture? So some people, like we talked about at the beginning of this presentation, really are going to be motivated by pay. Other people are going to be motivated by opportunity for advancement or cross-training or promotions. Other people are going to be more interested in the company culture, the values, how they interact with their teammates, the leadership of the company. And no matter which one is at the top of your list, culture will end up influencing your work experience. So even if you are competitively driven and you're looking for, you know, the most pay or the most prestigious opportunity, it is absolutely critical that you know the culture of the company that you are going to be the most successful at. So we're going to talk about one other exercise here. And this is helping you to understand what kind of work environment you are looking for and that's going to best support you. So the first thing I want you to do is write a list of all the things that are important to you in a culture. This might be things like flexibility in hours, remote working, ability to have others respect you and work with people who have integrity. It might be that you want to work in a place that highly values diversity and is an inclusive and equitable environment. This list could be 10 pages long. I don't care how long it is. I want you to just focus on everything that's really important to you. And then I want you to think about your own personal values. So When I was interviewing at Lewis Tree, actually, this was about 2 years ago now, I had one of the interviewers ask me what my personal values were. And I will tell you that it kind of stopped me for a minute. And I thought, this means something. This company is asking me what drives my own personal value system. That means that their value system is a real live part of who they are. So I want you to think about those and jot down some notes on what you value. And it could be, you know, honesty is one of the most important things to me. It could be innovation is really critical because I'm constantly curious about how to do things better. It could be that diversity piece. You know, you constantly want different perspectives, different ways people think. That's really important to you. So just jot some notes down about what your personal values represent. And then the third step here, I want you to combine them. Combine them into the cultural piece, the value piece, and allow a few very, very top things to raise to the surface. And the way that you do that is to think about what you're willing to give up. So what falls to the bottom, and then what's a non-negotiable. Like if I don't have, and I'll use diversity again as an example. If this company is not focused on diversity, I don't feel like it's going to be a good fit for me. Or, you know, you need a certain type of environment. I need an environment that's going to be supportive of me because I thrive when I have that support system. So allow yourself to come up with 1 to 3 of those things. And then always keep those in mind when you're talking to a company, and don't be afraid to ask them. What is your perspective on these things? These are things that are really important to me. Do you have a diversity program? How do you support your employees? Because as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. And just to sum up, because I know we're getting ready to go into some questions here, and I can't wait to hear all of the things that you guys are curious about. At the end of the day, what's going to make it a job you love is completely up to you. No one gets to decide that, not your parents, not your professors, not your best friends, not me. And I will tell you something, I have a job I love. So I absolutely love working for Lewis. And if you would have asked me 10 or 20 years ago that my dream job would be working at a vegetation management and utility line clearance company, I would have said, what? What are you talking about? So be open to more than what's just on paper or what you perceive or don't perceive about a company. Really spend that time to know what's important to you, because you never know when you will fall in love with your next job. So thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen here and pass it along to Maria.
Your presentation has just been so amazing. You know, and I've been in the field for a long time, but I have a page full of notes of little tips that I've learned. So I can imagine if I feel like this, how are our students feeling? And I think we have quite a few of them on the line. So I'm going to just start off by asking one question, and then you guys turn your cameras on. And if you could use the raise the hand, I'll call on you to kind of get this going. But you spent a lot of time, you know, talking about culture and for students to do that soul searching within themselves. So how do you know, if you had to give a tip to these guys, like how would they do that research on culture? I mean, that exercise was wonderful, but you know, at the end of the day, I see them, right? And they want that job and they're just so hungry for that job. So how do they choose between, the culture of the company and their own?
Yeah, and it's hard because companies choose what they put forward, and you have to be really committed to understand what actually happens in the walls. So when you go to a company's website, they may say check all the boxes because they want to be attractive as employers. I would highly suggest that you talk to people that work there. And, whether they currently work there, whether they've left, understand a little bit more. And I did the same thing when I came to Lewis. I knew some folks who had worked at Lewis or did work at Lewis. And I just asked the questions, what do you love working for this company? What are the challenges that you face? What are the pieces of the culture that really attracted you? And are they real and alive and well in the company? Because at the end of the day, companies can put whatever they want up on a website, right? They can put marketing and recruitment materials together, but where the rubber hits the road is the interactions of the people who actually work there.
All right, so I'm going to open it up. I don't see any raised hands yet. So I know you all have questions. If you don't, I'll ask another question to kind of warm up the group. Do you have any tips for our students on interviewing virtually? Now, all our interviews are online. Anything that they would be able to use?
Yeah, so I would say practice a little bit with someone safe, maybe a professor or a friend or family, because part of the challenge with a platform such as this is just the technology itself. And you're not used to seeing yourself, and that's distracting. So you want to try to just get used to actually speaking, answering questions on the media itself. But I would say that just treat it like any other conversation. Try to forget that the technology is there. And just like right now, I'm having a conversation with Maria and 99 other people. I'm not thinking about the technology. I'm thinking about how excited I am to connect with all these amazing students. So if you can bring that energy to the table when you're talking with the person you're interviewing, they're going to forget the technology is even there.
Yeah. Sorry, Kara, I'm scrolling through to make sure I'm not missing anyone and no one. Does any of our James, here we go.
Yeah, I have a question regarding actually your career choices. You mentioned that you are currently having your job as a vegetation field. How exactly did that career path end up there?
How exactly did that happen? Yeah, so I was actually recruited to Lewis, and the way that happened is my LinkedIn presence. So I had certain kinds of experience that they were looking for. It was very specialized, and the recruiter noticed that on my profile and reached out to me and was very persistent. And I took a look at the opportunity, and I will tell you that once I learned more about the opportunity, I was more and more interested. I think a lot of times when recruiters reach out to people, it's difficult to know, if they're meeting you in a place that you're interested in a change. So that's always kind of a dance, so to speak. But that's why I was saying LinkedIn, it definitely is a huge tool for people to find people, especially with specific experience.
Would you suggest our students, especially those that are looking for co-op or full-time, would you suggest in the open to work section, is that a place that you also think that they could put in some of those skills that you talked about?
Usually what they have you do is in the open to work section, they have you pick like a job title, and those are typically within their system, you know. But then in addition to that, you would want to add the skills, and that's in the skills section further down, because they do search for those skills as well as the open to work positions.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
What do you know, I'm just going to keep going because Bill has a question.
Hey, Maria, thanks for recognizing it. I had my my hand up. Hi, Kara. My name is Bill Dresnak. I am one of the faculty in Saunders College of Business, and I work closely with the advisory board. Really appreciate your being here. Your presentation was terrific, and your presence is terrific. And I know you've touched on this a little bit, but I want to ask it anyway, and I think it's worth reiterating. When I was an undergrad, I was very shy and lacked a lot of confidence. I'm the same way now, but very shy and lacked a lot of confidence. And if I got interviews, I really wasn't comfortable in the interviews. Do you have any particular suggestions? A suggestion I make to students is the better you know what you're going to talk about when you make presentations, the more confident you're going to be. And it's the same thing with an interview, that if you know the company, you have an idea of the position, you know yourself and what you want to say. But do you have any particular suggestions that might help people? Everybody's nervous in an interview. How do you kind of get past that, especially if you're shy?
Yeah, that's definitely a difficult situation to get beyond. It's such a personal experience for people. I think the answer that I had given in terms of getting beyond technology, it's very similar, and just really remind yourself you're just having a conversation. This is just a conversation. And to kind of take that stigma of, I have this interview and it's with this fancy person at this fancy company and it's so intimidating. That person is just a human being. They are just like you. They have fears, they have things they're not good at. And to just be try to bring it down to, hey, I'm here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, and get out of that interview intimidation mindset. That I think is the biggest thing, is we're just going to have a conversation. I do recommend, if people really are, if they have a real challenge in terms of, public speaking or being engaged, I would agree with you. You just have to practice. Do as much research as possible. Give yourself an opportunity to prepare to the nth degree, and it will definitely help. But yeah, it's a lot of people have things that keep them from being comfortable and confident, and I think we all have those, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and that's really good advice. Thank you. I'm sure there are some students on the call who kind of resonate with that, so it's really good. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
And I just want to put a little plug for a series of opportunities for all of you to do mock interviews. Because we are not in person, we are doing 3 series, and they're all virtually. One is this Friday, and then we'll have another in April. So going back to Kara's advice as practice, utilize our office to get that practice in. Practice makes perfect. I do want to just ask one last question, and I know we're at the mark. Do we have to end exactly at 5:15, or do we have time for one more question?
Maria, you are fine.
Okay. I want to talk about when you mentioned personal life as one of the things that a student can elaborate on. Can you give us you gave us an example, but can you give us another one as it pertains to the job? Because some students may hear that We have lots of students on this call that may be of, different nationalities. So for them, they can take personal life into a whole nother direction. So I wonder if you can give us some things that maybe when they do want to share, but what should they stay away from? What are some of those things that could be detrimental when you talk about personal life?
Yeah, I think you always want to make it work applicable. So, I had a person who interviewed with me who grew up with a brother who was disabled. And, you wouldn't think to bring that up in an interview. It's not really relevant, but his description was what he learned from that situation and how he never took anything for granted. And he always took advantage of every opportunity that was presented to him because his brother had not had those same opportunities. So I would say, there's things in your life that make you who you are. They mold you. They have profound impact on you. It could be a lesson that you learned. It could be something that you got involved with that opened you up to passion and energy and excitement. So as long as there's a story to help translate to who you are, because it's not just what you've done, right? It's who you are. I am this way because I had this experience and now I know how valuable that is. So I think it's really about knowing what lessons you learned or what attributes you have because of those personal experiences.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Daniel, one more question.
Hi. So I have a question. Are you able to give any advice for international students in order to stand out in the current job search, I guess?
I would say it's going to be the same as anyone, right? I think, as an international student, you have potentially some experiences that, like Maria was saying, you have some experiences that maybe other folks have not had before. And it's really about how do you translate or relate those experiences to what employers are looking for. So you might talk about adaptability. I'm able to be successful, going from one culture to another, one language to another, and that shows that I have adaptability and flexibility in the workplace. Or that, you have the ability to try new things and you're not afraid to take a risk or to do something new. So, just think about what are those things that you've experienced that would translate to something that a company is looking for or even a hiring manager is looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any last minute questions? Okay.
Great questions.
All right, I will turn it back over. Does anybody have any from the panel, or Ken, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything else. It's a great presentation. I also learned a lot. So at the end, thank you for Kara for such a wonderful and such an on-time presentation about our lifelong skills. And thanks for everyone attending. So our next meeting session will be on March 25th, the same time. And well, for you guys, if you have problem with broken link for your email, now we have fixed that, or you can copy and paste the dial-in number to your URL and then connect to us. Okay, thank you, and see you next time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.